Hey everyone, this video is about things to think about when you're starting a business or tuning up a small business that you already run. So if you work for yourself or in a small group of people, there should be lots of information in here for you. My name's Hadassah Damien, and I get asked a lot about starting businesses because I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years. Which is wild to say on reflection, but I have run my own businesses in lots of different formats. I have worked with other people. I've had cooperative businesses. I've gotten in there and figured out various investment ventures. And I would say my MBA is DIY. It's from the University of DIY. So there's going to be tons of information in here, but also at the end of the day, there's going to be real specifics to starting a business that are about your state or your municipality. So go ahead and make sure that you're also, Googling and reaching out to organizations in your state to make sure that you're setting things up legally, because I can't give you legal advice. I can just tell you a couple things to think about. So first things first, the framework that I really like is to take your business seriously. How can you help yourself have have some fun, but also take the serious approach to, I want to make this thing work. So there's a couple different things you need to be thinking about. One is the type of business entity that you're going to have. Another is your financial hygiene. How are you going to separate out your business finances? You want to have a mental model and plan for how the money's going to work. And you also want to have a business model for how you're going to get paid and who you're going to serve and why. So let me break these down first. The entity options that you have, a lot of people ask me, they're like, oh, do I need an LLC? Why? Maybe it's a good idea for you. And again, your state is going to have some specific rules for how you set up your LLC. But an LLC is it's a type of container for your business. Limited liability company. It's to limit your exposure to kind of makes a little sort of legal container around the things you do in your business. You don't need to form an LLC. If you're just out there getting paid for selling things or services, you are in the US what's called a sole proprietor, and in Canada you're self-employed, which is a little bit more clear. But you don't have to have an entity. People can decide to make entities for a bunch of different reasons. The lowest hanging fruit entity you can set up is called a DBA. It stands for doing business as. That's just another name for your business. So especially if you want to be able to get checks made out to a name that's not your legal government name, a DBA is a very kind of quick way to do that. An LLC, it will give you your entity a name. So you can also use a different name to get paid to. It also will give you kind of the information that you might need to go to a bank and open an official business bank account, although you could always have two accounts and just designate one for your business. People also like to have LLCs because they're flexible. Your LLC can get paid by another LLC. You can get this kind of nested thing going on, very level up. And speaking of level up, an LLC in any particular year, you have until March 15th, which is coming up as I record this video, to elect to have your LLC treated as what's called an S Corp. So normally if it's just you and you have an LLC, it's what's called a pass-through entity. It's basically you, but just a little sort of containerized version of you. For tax purposes though, the federal government is that's you, easy peasy. An S Corp is a separate entity. Corps are their own entities in the US. There's a very unsavory history around that, but that's not this video. An S Corp, people will elect to do that if you want the organization, the company, to payroll you. Why would you do that? Because you can elect to take some of your money by payroll and some of your money as a direct draw, which is where you just take the money out to yourself, and they're taxed a little bit differently. So people in your business, if you're making rule of thumb is somewhere around 80, 90, 100K or more, it could potentially start to be a tax benefit to you to have an S Corp. Talk to your accountant to get the deets for your situation. So speaking of money and paying yourself, if you do have an official registered business entity like an LLC, however it's treated, whether that's you or a multi-member LLC, it's lots of people, you have to have a separate account for it. And to me, this is actually one of the most take your business seriously, level up, useful things that you can do. I talk to people about their money and managing their money all the time. And it tends to really melt people's minds to have all the money going into one account and all of your spending coming out of one account. If you have an official registered business entity, you have to have a separate account, but it's a really good practice for your financial hygiene, even if you don't have to do it, because then all of your business income comes into one place, all of your expenses come out of one place, and you have what I call financial hygiene. You're like, great, this is clean, I understand what's happening, I'm not opening and logging into my account and wondering what the hell everything is, this, that, where, what. No, you don't want that to happen for yourself. You want to have some clarity about the money that's coming in. Was it from your business? The expenses that are going out, are these business expenses? And speaking of business expenses, you want to have your mental model and a plan for how the money's going to get used in your business. So you're working, you're bringing in revenue, that's great. You will spend money to make that money. It could be as simple as making sure that you have internet and good technology and potentially a mailing list and a website. You might need to rent a space to work. You might be selling products and therefore have to buy products. You're going to have expenses to do your work. You're also going to pay taxes on the money that you earn. So there's the money that comes in minus the expenses, the money you have to spend to run your business. The rest of that is taxable income. So you want to have a mental model. If you make $1,000, you don't have $1,000, my friend. You have $1,000 minus the money you had to spend to get that $1,000, your expenses, minus taxes. You have $600, $700. You know how much your expenses are. The only way you could potentially adjust that in your mental model and in reality is to also consider putting some money aside for retirement. If you work for yourself and only for yourself, you are responsible for figuring out how you're going to have some money later. So back to your mental model, you've got money coming in, $1,000, minus expenses, minus money that you're socking away for retirement. Then everything that's left is taxable, minus taxes. Now you have a certain amount of money left. I always like the financial hygiene practice of the money that's in your business bank account minus everything that you have to otherwise allocate that money for, and then transferring a certain amount of money from your business account to your personal account, again, either as a owner's draw for your LLC or in salary payroll that you would pay yourself. So having a kind of just summary mental model of how that's going to work for the money that's coming in is extremely useful, and it'll depend a little bit on the business entity that you have, and it's also going to depend a little bit on what your business model is, which is the last thing I would love to talk about. A business model is essentially who pays you, why, like what do you do for them, what value do you create for them, how much do you get paid, and then some tacticals on the channels, when and how. I talk to a lot of people who think a ton about social impact and the work, the good that they want to do with their business, which is awesome. And that's big part of the world, big part of conversations that are happening these days. So yes, the thing I want you to also think about is sustainability. So if you are getting paid in your business and you're doing good for others, just a business model could help you think through, well, is this sustainable for me to do? Am I getting paid enough after my expenses and retirement and taxes for the things that I'm doing? And a business model can also help you kind of rethink what it is you're doing if it's not financially sustainable. Should you have a different market or service or element to your business that you haven't yet brought in so that you can do the good you want to do and be sustainable? A business model is also useful because you can kind of go the other way. If you are making money in your business but not yet sure how you can do good, or you could stop and think about some of the opportunities that you might have, whether that is as simple as like funding a carbon offset or some kind of research into carbon sequestration. There's tons of opportunities to do that. I just signed up for that with my business. 1% of everything that comes in through Stripe essentially goes to carbon sequestration research. Great. Very happy about it. But so if you have a business and you want to think about, well, how can I like kind of plug in little levers to do better with it? This is also a way to do that. And so you've got your business entity, your financial hygiene, your mental model about how the money goes out, and your business model for how the money comes in. Those 4 things are all things that you can tweak and change a little bit, but it's helpful to kind of have an idea that like these are all the different things going on, so that you know which part you might want to try to change. The last thing that I want to say is I want to give people a couple hacks, or talk about a couple things that people tend to forget. So a hack, when you're signing up for your business entity, often you might use a service. There's lots of good reasons to use services. There's services called registered agents that can submit paperwork on your behalf. Sometimes, however, these services will charge you for things that you don't have to pay for. An EIN in the US is your employer identification number. You can get that for free directly from the IRS in about 4 minutes. So don't pay anybody for that. You can get that directly very, very easily online. You know, another thing in general, I'm just don't use LegalZoom. They're going to charge you for everything they possibly can. They're going to try to put you on like a recurring plan that you don't need. I think they'll try to charge you every year for your EIN. You don't have to re-up your EIN every year. You just get it once. So I don't like these extractive extractive organizations. However, there is a type of organization called a registered agent that I do think can be really helpful, because they can not only submit paperwork for you, but they can be the official address of record for your business, which from a digital physical security perspective means that your address is not publicly associated with the business. Theirs is. So a registered agent, I think, is really worth the money for that. Also, again, depending on your state, there's going to be different forms that you have to fill out when you're setting up your business. You might be like, I have no time, I have some money, I'm just going to like pay to get those forms done. I think that's totally okay, except for the EIN. It really takes 4 minutes. But there's also sometimes value in like going through and figuring out where the forms are in your state's kind of business ecosystem. So I just moved to Colorado. I just reset up a new LLC that I elected to be an S Corp in Colorado. So I had to get some various forms so that I could be an employer of myself in the state. Within 3 minutes of Googling, I was able to find something called mybiz.colorado.gov. They walked me through getting all the forms. I could have paid through my setup agency $200 to get the forms, but not only did I spend 20 minutes and get them done myself, I also now have a small business account with my state, and there's other resources there. And so there can be a value add in you taking a little bit of time to try to do the extra work yourself, so that you can see a bit more of the ecosystem of the information that you have access to, but also might want to know exists and where it is and where to find it. So you can self-drive a little bit more as you manage your business. What else? Oh yeah, neobanks. So like I said, getting a separate account for your business is such a level up. It's going to clarify a lot of things. It's going to help you with your mental model. It's going to help you with your business model, because you're going to see what's happening a little bit more clearly, or what's working, what's not. So there's also just like some interesting banks like Mercury, one of my partnerships. We just started using that, something called Brio. There's like, you can do a little Google search on banks that are business accounts that also will do some accounting for you, just in the sense that they'll categorize your expenses. And also, you know, they can have like digital debit cards that you can get instantly. There's a lot of modern conveniences that are available out there. So I think that's what I want to give you in this introductory video. I also do a workshop called Money Like You Mean To, where I help people just really think through their financial hygiene. How am I going to manage the money in and out? Where's it going to go? Their mental models. So how do I think about expenses and taxes and retirement and what's left to pay myself? And your business model. How do I set up my pricing and my services and my products so that I can actually make enough money to be sustainable? So I do that workshop every other month. There's one coming up at the end of March, and then again in May. And there's so many resources on starting your business. So this is like, and so many people who are doing it. So I'm always excited to talk about it. I'm really, really just like into the world of people who are figuring out how to do what they want to do it well, and do it sustainably. So here's to you. If you have listened to all of this, I wish you tons of luck.